Florida State was one of the biggest surprises in all of college football last year, and it wasn't in a good way. The Seminoles went 2-10, their worst season since 1974, 1 year removed from a 13-1 season where they were, some would say, controversially left out of the college football playoff. It was an absolute disaster. But rest assured, they will bounce back in 2025. They will bounce back in 2025, just maybe not in the way that fans are hoping for. Before we jump into this, this season, what we've got the Seminoles going, you look at last year. Nothing panned out for them. They lost so much talent from the very experienced squad in 2023. Thought they had put together a good squad through the transfer portal, and they just didn't. Sometimes you hit a home run with those transfers, sometimes you swing and you miss, and that's exactly what Mike Norvell did. DJ Uyunglele was a disaster. The offensive line, a disaster. The defensive line, a disaster. The Seminoles, as we mentioned, 2-10, only wins coming by 5 points over California and then beating Charleston Southern. They opened the year 0-3 with losses to Georgia Tech, Boston College, and Memphis. And Norvell now enters year 6 down in Tallahassee with just a 33-27 overall record and has posted 3 losing seasons. He really hasn't done that great of a job. The only reason he's still here is because he went 23-4 between 2022 and 2023. And even if he goes 2-10 again this year, don't really see him leaving. He's got a $56 million buyout. He's going to be around at least for a little while, which means he needs to find a way to win in 2025. The offense, let's take a look at it. One thing Norvell did, and I praise him a lot for that, is he recognized how bad last year was, and he pretty much gutted the entire program, right? He got 2 new coordinators. He got completely new players. It is a completely new Florida State team entering this season. The offense now led by the great Gus Malzahn. I think is a fantastic hire, a fantastic offensive mind, and the head coach, a lot of different places. Arkansas State, Auburn, UCF, and left UCF, where he wasn't doing too well, to become the offensive coordinator with the Seminoles. So that's a huge thing, and he's going to improve those numbers a lot. Florida State only mustered 15.4 points per game last year, only 270 yards per game last year. DJ Uyunglele, thankfully, is gone from Florida State, as are the top 4 pass catchers for the Seminoles. So they've got to kind of rebuild some things. But as we mentioned, quarterback play was a major issue for their offensive struggles. Florida State quarterbacks, they started, 3 of them, combined for 11 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Kind of similar to that Michigan quarterback situation. At least the Wolverines could win 8 games and beat Ohio State and Bama. Besides the point. The offensive line was terrible. They gave up 49 sacks last year. We're saying all this because now we're talking about the guys coming in. They now have a dual-threat quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, who has starting experience in the ACC, coming in from Boston College, where he threw for over 3,600 yards, 33 touchdowns, and rushed for over 1,300 yards during his time with the Eagles. That's the last 2 years. He was benched last year in year 1 under Bill O'Brien. Does have to work on his decision-making. Had 19 interceptions during his career there. But I think he's going to fit well in Gus Malzahn's offense. Malzahn typically doing well with a mobile quarterback. Roydell Williams returns at running back. Was injured last year, but should be back fully healthy, ready to make an impact. They add Squirrel White in at wide receiver from Tennessee. Has over 1,500 reception yards in the last 3 years. Deuce Robinson in at wide receiver from UCF. And the offensive line, which again gave up nearly 50 sacks, now has a combined 129 starts and averages 332 pounds. So this is a much better Florida State offensive line and will look drastically different come week 1. Or offense as a whole, I should say. Defensively, new defensive coordinator Tony White has posted 4 straight top 25 defenses during his stops at Syracuse and Nebraska. They now have 8 starters back and will improve drastically after giving up over 28 points per game in over 385 yards per game. That includes 185 rushing yards per game. So again, that front line, that front 7, just horrendous for Florida State in 2024. Their top 2 tacklers from last year do return, with Shaheem Brown coming back in the secondary and Blake Nicholson coming back at linebacker. The defensive line has a lot of key transfers. A guy like James Williams in from Nebraska. They returned Darrell Jackson, who had 3.5 sacks last year, and they add Deontay McCray, who had 111 tackles and 3.5 sacks in the last 2 years at Western Kentucky. So the defensive line, little experience, a little bit more better with some transfers coming in, a little bit bigger, stronger, faster. The linebacking core, as we mentioned, with Nicholson back, is huge. Elijah Herring also comes in at linebacker from Memphis. The secondary, we mentioned, returns Shaheem Brown, who was one of the top tacklers last year. They had Jeremiah Wilson in from Houston, who had 4 interceptions with the Cougars last year. And they returned KJ Kirkland and Edwin Joseph. So bottom line is, this Florida State team, from top to bottom, is going to be drastically different. The culture has changed. The mentality has changed. The talent has changed, And while they might not be an ACC title contender or a college football playoff contender, they should find a way to get a winning season. The schedule, though, is very tough. They open the year at home against Alabama, and that's going to be a loss. A very highly anticipated Week 1 game. A lot of great games in Week 1. This is one that I think is getting overshadowed because of Ohio State, Texas, and then LSU, Clemson at night. So this one's right in the middle of those two games. I don't think people are talking nearly enough about it because these are two teams that did disappoint last year. Alabama didn't live up to their expectations in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer. Florida State, obviously a massive disappointment. So the winner of this game kind of gets a little bit of the pressure off, right? There's a lot of pressure on both these coaches. The fan bases are anxious to get a win. And the loser is going to have to answer a lot of questions, and it's going to have to start sweating it out a little bit because you got a long season left to go, and the winner gets to walk away with a quality win over a power opponent. I do believe Alabama's the better team here, though. Yes, they're starting a new quarterback in Ty Simpson, so I'll be interested to see how he fares, especially in this crazy of a road environment. But the bottom line is Alabama's defense is the difference maker here. This Bama defense is the real deal. Will be one of the best in the SEC, maybe even one of the best in the country. And I think Bama's got a little bit extra motivation right there. I love Thomas Castellaно's confidence, saying, they don't have Nick Saban to save him anymore. This is not the same Alabama. We're going to be just fine. They haven't seen us, things like that. If I'm Alabama, I've got that postered all over our locker room until season begins on August 30th. Bama wins this game, and I think they win it by double digits. Florida State 0-1. They will then win their next 3 games. They'll beat Eastern Texas A&M. They will beat Kent State, and they will beat Virginia. Maybe a trap game, some would say, but I think the secondary does well against Chandler Morris. I think the passing game is going to be great for Virginia, at least better than it has been. But I think the secondary holds their own, and that Virginia passing defense, while improving, still needs a lot of work after giving up 263 passing yards per game. So maybe this is a game where Thomas Castellanos delivers. Virginia obviously has to respect the run game as well. He's not just going to be a pocket passer. So I think Florida State from top to bottom has better talent. They'll get some wins under the belt, a little bit of chemistry under the belt. They find a way to beat Virginia, although it will be close. They're 3-1. They come back home to take on Miami, who they lost to by 22 points last year. Both these teams are drastically different than they were last year. Miami, their electric offense that averaged nearly 44 points per game. Well, they're pretty much all gone, but they reloaded. Carson Beck is in, and C.J. Daniels is in, and Mark Fletcher's back at running back. I mean, they've got talent there. Miami, to me, across the board, offensively, defensively, especially with that defensive line, is better than Florida State. They are better in every aspect of this game with the exception of home field advantage, and I think the Hurricanes can overcome that. I think it's closer than it was last year. I think Florida State gives them everything they can handle. But I just don't see them winning this game against a team that people are going to be probably quick to write off because they lost Cam Ward, so everything's going to fall apart. That's not the case. So Florida State drops the game to Miami. They're 3-2. People are probably a little upset about that, but they don't have any bad losses by any means. Nothing compared to losing by double digits to Boston College last year, or losing to Memphis at home. 3-2. But rest assured, believe this or not, they're going to go bowling because I haven't won their next 3. We'll just kind of skip through this here. They're going to win their next 3. And really, the toughest game of the next 3 games is Pittsburgh. And the Seminoles get that one at home. They do need to be weary of the Pittsburgh defense. That front 7 for the Panthers is going to be really, really good. But is Eli Holstein going to be the guy to come on the road and win in this type of environment? Can he stay healthy for an entire year? Who's going to be his top pass catchers? Because right now, I think the second leading pass catcher last year was Desmond Reed, who was their running back. So who are going to be the playmakers for Pitt? Veteran quarterback, veteran running back, sure. Good defense, sure. But is that going to be enough to win in Tallahassee? I don't think so. I think Florida State, as long as they're not hung over from a loss to Miami, wakes up, beats a quality Pitt team, 4 wins. They cruise past Stanford, even though it's a long road trip. Stanford going to struggle mightily this year. 5 wins out of the bye week, off a week of rest. They're going to beat Wake Forest, who I think is going to be battling Stanford for the title of worst team in the ACC. But I think the Demon Deacons just slightly better in 2025. So really a favorable stretch there after the Miami game. And we got the Seminoles going bowling. I mean, look at that. I mean, how quick that was. So that clearly shows you how much better this Florida State team is going to be, how much better we believe they're going to be. The schedule is relatively light for them. Again, Stanford and Wake Forest in back-to-back games. Kent State, East Texas A&M, right there, that's 4 wins. We've got them beaten, obviously, Pittsburgh and Virginia. But regardless, I really, really think that's a favorable start, and it's big because the final 4 games are tough. That's kind of the other thing, too, for Florida State, is if they want to go bowling, if they want to get a winning season, if they want to, exceed expectations, whatever you want to say it is, you need to do a lot of damage in the first 2/3 of the season. Because once you get into the bulk of November, at Clemson, at NC State, at Florida, 3 of your Final 4 on the road, and the home games against the Virginia Tech team, who in theory should improve a little bit. So we've got them at 6-2 heading into the road game at Clemson. That's going to be a loss. I think most people expect that. This Clemson team is the best team in the ACC. They are a true national title contender. Cade Klubnik, to me, is the best quarterback in the country. I don't see really any glaring weaknesses on this Clemson team. Factor in they now have to go to Death Valley, which, as we know, is a very difficult place to play. Clemson's going to get this win. Yes, Florida State won there 2 years ago. That was with one of the better Florida State teams we've ever seen. The one that, of course, went 13-0 with an ACC title and then lost to Georgia, besides the point. They're going to lose to Clemson, 6-3. They bounce back at home, though, with a win against Virginia Tech. I do like them here. I think it's close, but I still have concerns on 2 things with Virginia Tech: their defense and their offensive line. Their defense as a whole and the offensive line. If this Florida State defensive line improves like we think it will, especially with the transfers they've added, they could cause some problems for whoever's under center for Virginia Tech, and we assume it's going to be Kyron Drones, assuming he can stay healthy. So if they contain him to the pocket, don't allow him to utilize his mobility, force them into some second, third, and long situations, they've got this game in the bag. It's also senior day for the Seminoles because they have back-to-back road games to end the year. I just don't see them losing at home to the Hokies with everything we've got going into this one. And with that win, Florida State has clinched a winning season. They have clinched a winning season. They could lose out, including their bowl game, and they're 7-6, and they've got a winning season. Now, I know that's not good enough, I'm sure, for Seminole fans, but they do expect titles, and they expect to compete at the highest level. But considering what happened last year, considering this is, in a way, a rebuild. You have rebuilt this roster. You're just doing it quicker with the transfer portal. That's a solid mark. 7-3 heading into the road game at NC State on a Friday night. I like the Wolfpack here. I know a lot of people might disagree with that. Florida State has lost the last 3 at North Carolina State. They have lost the last 3 at North Carolina State. This team has a young but talented quarterback in C.J. Bailey, their top rusher returning, their top 2 pass catchers returning, and a very stingy defense in what is shaping up to be a bounce-back year for Dave Doeren's squad. He always bounces back from a disappointing season. He hasn't had many. I think they get the job done over the Seminoles, 7-4, and then I do think they lose to Florida. I'm not as high on the Gators as some are. I don't have them pegged as an SEC title contender or anything like that, but this is a dang good football team that showed a lot of promise towards the end of last year, including a 20-point win over the Seminoles. I expect, it was a 31-11 game last year in favor of the Gators. I would think like a 31-21 game. I think the Seminoles cut it in half. I think they can get a little bit closer to Florida this year, but not enough to win in the Swamp. If DJ Lagway can stay healthy, he has a lot of potential. The running back core looks really good. The defense is severely underrated. Senior day for the Gators. The Swamp, not an easy place to play. Yeah, Seminole fans will show up for it. I get it. It's an in-state game. But I do like Florida a lot more here. 7-5 for Florida State. 5-3, though, in conference play, because we got them losing to Bama. Got to lose them to Florida. Those are 2 non-conference games. 5-3 in the ACC would put them in the top half of the standings. To me, a great bounce back year. Yes, it's not elite caliber play, but considering you've got a experienced but mediocre quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, he's not a world killer by any means, but he's going to be a guy that will fit well under Gus Malzahn's offense. Considering you get so many new pieces at just about every position on the team, a winning season from what the disaster that we saw last year is a great bounce back for Mike Norvell's squad, and they'll build on that heading into 2026, where they maybe could return to form and could return to the level that fans expect them to be, which is competing for ACC titles and competing for college football playoff spots. And this time, or the next time it happens, they won't get left out. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks, which are some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Do not miss out on those. Don't miss out on our weekly newsletters, also over on thegridironexpert.com, jam-packed with exclusive content you won't get anywhere else. The link for that, again, down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.